My sister dumped her kids on me for the 5th weekend in a row, and as I sat on my couch, exhausted, juggling work deadlines, grocery shopping, and the chaos of 3 energetic children running through my apartment, I realized I had reached my limit, because while I loved my nieces and nephews dearly, love does not equate to being a built-in babysitter, and constant, unplanned obligations were wearing me down emotionally, physically, and mentally, leaving little room for my own life, my responsibilities, or even the simple peace of a quiet evening. And as the kids clamored for snacks, toys, and attention, I felt a mixture of guilt, frustration, and determination that I needed to draw a line before resentment took root. When my sister called to confirm she would drop them off early again, I took a deep breath, gathered my composure, and replied firmly, "I'm not their built-in babysitter. I can help occasionally, but I cannot continue to take care of them every weekend without notice or consideration." And I could hear the surprise in her voice, a mix of defensiveness, disbelief, and irritation, but I refused to waver, knowing that boundaries were essential not only for my own sanity, but also for the children, because modeling limits, respect, and clear expectations is a lesson just as important as any bedtime story or shared activity. Over the following hours, the children sensed a shift in my tone, and while there were initial protests, whining, and attempts to push the boundaries, I remained calm but consistent, explaining that while I loved them, I also had responsibilities, work, and personal needs, and that weekends were a time for planned visits, not automatic drop-offs. And as I watched their faces change from frustration to understanding, I realized that establishing limits was not an act of cruelty, but of care. Teaching them about respect, communication, and the importance of valuing other people's time and energy. Later, when my sister returned to pick them up, she arrived flustered, expecting the same compliance as before, but I calmly reiterated that this weekend had been the last of the unplanned drop-offs, and that future visits needed to be scheduled and respected, because love and family support do not require sacrificing one's well-being or autonomy, and sometimes the hardest lessons are learned not through confrontation, but through consistent, thoughtful enforcement of boundaries. In the days that followed, I reflected on the experience, realizing that standing up for myself had not only preserved my mental and emotional health, but also created a framework for healthier family dynamics, showing both my sister and the children that respect, communication, and consideration are essential, and that being helpful does not mean being exploited, and love does not require overextending oneself to the point of exhaustion. The shift was subtle but real. My sister began to plan visits more responsibly, and the children, after some adjustment, respected the boundaries, learning that I could be loving, supportive, and present without being taken for granted, and in the process, our relationships deepened, strengthened by mutual respect and clearer expectations, rather than strained by constant imbalance and unspoken resentment, proving that even difficult conversations, when handled with clarity, consistency, and compassion, can transform conflict into understanding, frustration into cooperation, and obligation into willing support, leaving me with a renewed sense of agency, balance, and confidence in my ability to navigate family responsibilities while preserving my own life, demonstrating that saying no, setting limits, and enforcing boundaries is not selfish, but an essential part of healthy, sustainable relationships, and that love, respect, and care can coexist with personal autonomy when approached thoughtfully, deliberately, and with courage.